My opinion concerning the Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice experience is such that I actually really like the way that they're approaching the DC extended universe. I like the iteration that they've done so far. I like some of the work. Obviously, there's issues, there's criticisms from me as with the other person who's viewed it, but in regards to that movie specifically, I've watched it multiple times now, and I still have a strong opinion that it is a decent movie. And I think that people are questioning whether or not its validity is such that or the negative opinions people have concerning it are saying that it's too serious or that it's too um, kind of mired in a darkness, or it's these overtones that are unnecessary for the genre, as it were. But they're basing those on, in all likelihood, on what they've seen up until that point, which is, let's not pretend, is the kind of the rival, as it were, the contender. The Marvel movies and those experiences, and even me making this opinion or saying that I actually quite like the DC universe, the extended DC universe cinematic experience. Even me saying this alone probably will create some sort of polarization, because one person or another may assume that just because I like DC, therefore I must be taking sides and being counter to what Marvel is doing, which is not necessarily the case at all, because I actually do like Marvel also, as I like Star Wars also, as I like Star Trek also. It's not. It seems quite silly actually in many cases to kind of form loyalty towards one thing or another, because quite often that's done out of insecurities. People like to be a part of something. They like to form groups. They like to be associated with a cause or a body of work or people or whatever. And these organizations kind of thrive off of presenting themselves as opposing or different to other similar organizations, or in many cases entirely different organizations. Anyway, the point is, returning back to my opinion of the Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice experience, I think in terms of standout performances, I actually really do agree with what Jesse Eisenberg did with the Lex Luthor character. I think it's important to note that we're seeing the origins of the character. The aesthetic clearly is different to what people have been used to up until that point, and I think it's important to note that he is representing a highly intellectual individual, and quite often these people, as can be witnessed in real life and documented in many cases and psychoanalyzed, etc., these individuals tend to be like frayed at the edges, as it were, and that they have complications or issues that surround the fact that they are have this overactive mind, or that they have a mind that's kind of mired in all these different stimuli. Then it kind of affects the way that they approach people on the outside world in ways, in terms of their sociability. And we see that in his speech in one particular scene that I quite like, in that he's almost kind of so determined to get his point across, or to be impressive in some way or another, probably stemming from a sense of narcissism and an egocentric kind of personality. He feels that he should be the one in control, and he does that through kind of wit and through kind of the kind of the manipulative sort of tendencies that he has towards approaching people in any given situation. And I think that comes across in the character, and I think Lex Luthor is the type of character that does need to feel in control. And he's well, quite likely his sort of antagonistic view or approach towards Superman and the metahumans, for example, is that they represent the counter to that, a rivalry, as it were. Their real physical power is a threat to his own sort of intellectual power, as it were, and his own financial power and his kind of political standing, etc. He represents the former, the prior, the kind of the power that we understand in our own existence, which is control through people, controlling money, controlling situations. That is the power that he understands, and he's risen to arguably the heights of that. But now there's this new type of power that's emerging in a very kind of unsubtle way, and that's kind of represented in a figurative way in the Superman character. His power is different. His power is beyond what human comprehension is at that point. He's changed the game essentially, in sort of like a better phrase. He's kind of created new opportunities and new dangers. That fear of the unknown is unacceptable to Lex Luthor, who kind of projects this idea of altruism, and that he's so concerned with helping others and protecting humanity, when, in my opinion, quite often he's actually only concerned with one individual, and that's himself. And he recognizes probably very early on in life that the way to move up through the world is by convincing others and playing the kind of the courtier, as it were. Sort of Machiavellian kind of dark triad of emotional states that he has, these traits, these personality kind of tendencies that uh, kind of collate into the character that he is. And I think that we see his throughout the movie, we see that kind of become more desperate as he kind of further seeks ways and methods of which to control that which up until now has been uncontrollable. And obviously, this is spoilers, obviously. The fact that when we see the scene, Superman is on his knees in front of Lex Luthor, we see that kind of come almost to the fore, and that he's now convinced that he is in control and that the situation is handled. But then plans change as they do, and he becomes more desperate, and his contingency plan is chaotic, and it isn't in line with humanity or protecting the altruistic kind of attitude he has towards, or it kind of kind of presents to the world, as it were. And we see a cataclysmic collision, and the result being Superman's death. And I actually believe that is quintessential Lex Luthor, and that he's very much about contingency plans. He's very much about planning, controlling, manipulating situations and peoples in order to gain further standing for himself within the society or situation he finds himself in. And in line with that, I think the other characters help kind of facilitate that development. And I think as a result, the movie was a decent experience.